I really like your look, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Lipstick lady.
I'm the lipstick lady and I'm bad today. I'm TinaO and this is Meribeth Deen and we are your writing peeps. We are your published ladies. We are your core story women. And Muttley's here too, the pupper dog who's making a bit of noise. And today we're giving you we're hashing out the line between what's for you as the writer and what's for them as the reader. And when you're writing, how do you know when you've crossed the line or when you're avoiding the line? And I was going to ask Meribeth a few questions because she comes from a journalism background, documentaries, radio docs, and the cool thing about docs is they're all about challenging material, right? And that's what they do. Those kind of storytellers, they walk that line all the time. So Meribeth, you have a story about a lawyer.
Well, wait.
What?
Before we go to that, I
Okay.
think we should talk about the art.
Okay. Okay.
Because I think we're talking about when do you know when you're ready to put something out there in the world?
Okay.
That was
Yep.
another conversation we had.
Sure.
Can we start there?
Let's start there. Dive in. What do you want to go with? Art.
Well,
go ahead.
we had this whole conversation about dancing with yourself. You might have seen it if you took part in Tina's core story session. She said, you know, it's all great to dance by yourself and everything, but at some point you want to dance out in public if you're going to dance, right? And I said, yeah, totally. And people, you got to dance by yourself for maybe 20 years or something before you're ready to go out. Hopefully not. Some people do it right away and they're great. But how do you know when you're ready to let people into your world?
Yeah. That's the question. I love that question. How do you know when you're ready to let other people into your world?
And I was thinking, you know, as an artist, when do you go from being someone who paints and hangs paintings on your own wall to someone who has a show at a gallery and can actually go up to someone and be like, yeah, I'm an artist. Can I show you my work? And hang stuff in your gallery. Muttley's really into these geese.
We have geese. That's so funny. They're challenging him. They're in the ocean going, you can't get me. You can't get me. Okay, back to the art on the wall. Right. When do you bring people into your gallery? And as a writer, it's the same. It's like that same idea. I know that I was doing singing classes a while ago, and the singing instructor said to me that when you come to singing class, we close the door. This is where you screw up. This is where you take risks because nobody's listening. Now, of course you take risks when you have an audience too, but it was like understanding that there are places that you dance for yourself to explore and places that you, or write for yourself to explore, and places that you write for
safe
others.
Spaces.
Yeah.
Safe spaces. We're a safe space.
We're
right,
a safe
Tina?
space. We're totally
We want
safe
you
space.
to take chances and to fail. Journalism school was the best. I had the best time ever because I got to be super creative and silly and go out on a limb, and I didn't have to worry about it.
But what would that have been like if you had been silly and out on a limb and all the journalist stuff, not in a safe place, because the public is not a safe place. Part of this program is we're going to help you feel safe as a writer as you put yourself out into a not safe place, which is the public, where everyone's going to have a zillion opinions about you. So if you had done that, if you had shared all that stuff in journalism school out with the world, what would have happened to you?
Well, it could have been okay actually, and I did put some stuff out there, but it was really hard for me.
Okay.
You know, that's a whole self-conscious bit, right?
Yeah.
And scared of being rejected and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And anyhow, when, you know, once I started actually working, my boundaries were a lot tighter.
Yeah.
And you know, 15 years in, I understand that.
Yeah.
In a really good way. I really understand why those exist.
Yeah.
You know, working as the media in a small town.
It's a whole other conversation.
3,000 people look at my words in print every week.
Yeah.
That feels kind of, you know, it's a small paper, whatever, but you know, that feels kind of big.
Let me give you some context for that, because you don't know where she comes from. So Meribeth and I live in a small town. She's the editor of a newspaper that reaches everybody. When she writes something, people think that's her opinion, and sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. And that's a very vulnerable place to be, and you have to have some thick skin, and you have to know who you are as a writer in order to do that.
And you got to know your audience too.
You have to know your
right?
audience. Yeah.
So I know that my audience is very politically engaged on all across the spectrum. So while I have a certain opinion, and I'm sure that comes through in some way, shape, or form, I'm never going to divulge who I am fully. Not publicly, not in this forum.
Right. So that's the conversation about forum. So we're back to where is the line? Where do you shrink back from the line? Where do you cross the line?
And who's your audience? Who are you speaking to? Do you exist to try and convince them of something? Mm-hmm. Do you want to engage a broad spectrum of people in thinking about something in a new way? Mm-hmm. Are you rattling the cages here? Are you willing to accept that if you go really far in one end of the opinion spectrum, you might lose 50% of people right off the bat? Mm-hmm. And if you do that, how do you hold on to your audience that is on your side? Mm-hmm. What are you offering them? Are you offering them a story that can make their own beliefs, their own arguments more bulletproof? Now, in this age of false news and media polarization, I don't even really like to go there, but you know, it's a reality. We've been talking about Richard Dawkins a lot this morning and debating merits and what makes him worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. And it brought us to this place of what story are you serving and how do you serve it? And which is a great conversation about Meribeth and in her radio docs. She had you had a story, right, about a lawyer in working in, you have to tell me, Guantanamo Bay.
The first lawyer who got in to work for the prisoners in Guantanamo.
Okay, so the prisoners in Guantanamo, trigger word, right? People can have a zillion opinions about that. Prisoner, Guantanamo, lawyer, 3 triggers. So how did you navigate that, and what story did you end up serving? Because you weren't serving the details. You were serving what?
I just wanted to talk about who this guy was and what drove him on an emotional level. I mean, he's a lawyer. You know, as he said to me, graduating from law school, I could have much more easily had a career making $80,000 or $100,000 a year than trying to make $30,000 a year and doing what was important to him. And he chose the latter. So what drives someone to do that? And I wanted to get to the heart of that emotional story with him.
Right. So the story you were serving was the heart of his emotional journey. Along the way, and one of the things, you said this earlier that I loved, it's actually about him. He knew that to really do his work, he wanted to go to like the heart of what was hardest, which are the details, right? Like that was the most challenging place for him to do the work he wanted to do. Is that right?
I think who most needed being served.
Right.
Where was the biggest challenge in terms of putting his skills to use? I think that's kind of what it came down to. The biggest need, you know,
and the greatest impact, which is interesting because you as writers are kind of doing the same thing, right? In your own story, you're saying, what are the stakes of my story? How can I tell this story in the most compelling way? What are the circumstances that tell that story that drives, like, back to the core piece, right? What's the core piece?
What's your impact?
Yeah.
You know, I had a really cool thing the other day. I published a woman in the paper talking about parenting, and afterwards she posted the piece and she said, hey, look, you know, I've had 5 moms come up to me and say they've organized their own personal play dates because of my article. And I'm like, there you go, impact. You gave these women permission to do what they needed for themselves. She made an impact. She made an offering to them. So what's your offering?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to say it.
Wow. So we're going to close this up because we've given you like a zillion ways in to answer the question for yourself. When are you dancing for yourself, and when are you inviting the public in? And there's lots of things to consider. What do you want to take away from this what do you want them to take away from this conversation? And I'll share mine too.
I think when you're dancing for yourself, you don't need a reason for that. Maybe you're doing that because it makes you feel good, or you need to let it all out, or get your words on the page. doesn't matter. But when it comes time to put your work out there, you need to think about what story you're serving, the purpose of it, why it's going out there into the world. How is it going to make the world better? I don't know. I'd really like you to ask that one.
Yeah.
Because I hope you're not trying to make the world worse. And how are you going to do that? You know, it is a tall order. So, but being intimidated and being self-conscious, all those are good things. You just need to push through.
Ooh, I love that. Ending on, you're going to be self-conscious and you just got to push through it. I think I don't need to add any takeaways. I think she's nailed it. She's totally nailed it. Yeah. Let the self-consciousness be there because it's actually your humility piece. When you feel self-conscious, ask yourself, am I self-conscious for me, or am I actually not ready to share this piece yet with the world because it's not ready? The story's self-conscious because it's actually just supposed to be art on my wall and not in my gallery. We're TinaO and this is Meribeth Deen, and we're your writing girls. We're here to help you write great books and write great messages.
Bye.
Bye.